Good morning, YouTube. It's me, always George Page, aka the Emperor of Female Bodybuilding Talk, coming to you live on YouTube. You know what, folks? I am, yesterday I did a live, and I was on IG, and you know what? YouTube is where I have more of my followers. It's where I got my start, and I can't, and I don't want to go to my other social media platforms, but I still have to go back to YouTube. As you know, a while back, we often do this. We had a discussion about when it's time for women's bodybuilding and physique to be, when it's time for the divisions to change. Well, this is a picture I did. I did a live stream on that a while back. And these are two ladies who competed this summer. We have here on one side here, on your left, or on your right, my left, is Martina Lopez. And on the other side of her is Brigitte, I hate to mispronounce her name, but Brigitte A. I'm gonna say the A, the last part of it, because that's how her name is. And Martina, she's from Spain, and Brigitte's from, I think it's Austria. Now, these two ladies competed at the Imperial. They both won their Olympic qualifications there. Now, I've seen Brigitte. She did a couple of shows here in the States. Most notably, she was top 5 at the Pittsburgh Pro. I'm looking at this lady. She's not in no way in one point women's physique. Now, I know some say, well, the size, and I guess the size, but I'm seeing some physique competitors that need to move up. I mean, and she's a good example of that. If you look at Martina, Martina's not too far in size, not too far. And I think Brigitte's maybe a little taller because Martina, she's on the shorter side. I think she's maybe a little over 5 feet. And Brigitte, I believe she's maybe about the same height as maybe something like Andrea Shaw. Andrea's like 5'5", 5'6". And usually those are the best ones because they're not too short, but they're not too tall. They really put on some muscle, And I'm just, as you know, we did my Muscle Talk Monday. We was informed. Shout out to Hank the Tank. He informed us that there was only 5 women competing in the show. One of them, one lady's, I was talking with on social media. She's kind of happy that it's just an opportunity. She might get her first Olympic qualification. And, and a couple of ladies I talked to, they, even though they feel like this is a very small lineup, they always want to do this show. But as you know, back in the day, the Rise of Phoenix was an invitation show. Other than, the women who won, Andrea, who was the champion, and some ladies who got invited. And most, just some of them were ladies who didn't qualify, like people like my dear friend Tina S. Williams. I think Virginia Sanchez was always invited every year. I think she did it one year because of things was going on in her life, and also she recently moved. I remember she said that. A couple others, But this year, now it's a regular, anybody goes, open opportunity, and also top 3 qualify. But now with Andrea there, it's going to be top 2. Now, Angela Yo's not competing, and she's said that she's not competing because now that she won the title last year. Now I changed it. I think she feels slighted. No offense to you, Angela, but hey, things are changing because right now Jake runs the Olympia. And my sympathy goes out to you ladies. I know this was a great prestigious show for you, but now it's like any other show. But now, I can't stop saying now. I just say, I gotta cut that out. Sometimes it's a habit in your talking logistics. But things have changed. As you know, Jake is now running Olympia. He's been running Olympia for the last 5-6 years, since he bought it and took it over. And he was the one who implemented the return of women's bodybuilding back to the Olympia, the true Miss Olympia. Not Miss Olympia Physique, not Miss Olympia Fitness, the true Miss Olympia, the one that started for all of them. And I hope he's doing this. If he is changing some things, like, next year they're going to cut down the number of competitors with new point systems coming up and other stuff is going on. One thing he needs to do is up the prize money for the women's divisions. All the other divisions too. I say Andrea deserves at least $100,000 or more, being that she's the current champion, and you can think about it. If you shoot at $100,000, well, make second place for someone like Andrea, like sorry, Angela, like $75,000. Now you got to think about it. That's a good comeback compared to getting $50,000 at the Rising Phoenix, and 50,000 for third place, 25,000 for fourth, and maybe about 10-15,000 for fifth. I mean, and that's a little more than $5,000 what the other person used to get before. And even do the other divisions, one person doesn't worry about money is Sarah. She's a rich man's wife. But again, I'm seeing physique competitors who need to move up to women's open bodybuilding, and physique at the at the Rising Phoenix, or actually I'm trying to remember if it's still the Arizona Pro or now it is engulfed and make it all the Rising Phoenix. I gotta check with somebody about that, because anytime I do an interview with a physique competitor, say I'll compete at the Rising Phoenix. No, you compete at the Arizona Pro. The Rising Phoenix is the Women's Bodybuilding World Championship. You're just adjacent to it. But now I think because it's fully the Rising Phoenix, yes, you're competing in the Rising Phoenix. We have at least about nearly 30 women at this show. And just saw Marika Jones. Marika did 5 shows this summer, and now about to do her 6th. I thought she was going to be done. She just did interview man Glenn at the Amazon Fitness podcast a couple of days ago. I thought she was done. I thought she was shut down, but she's coming back in here. People like Natalia Bastova coming from all the way from Russia. That Sunday, there's a show in Germany coming up, and she could have done that show, but she's doing this show. Wow. We did a Sunday discussion that last Sunday in August, and Tracy Gall and Trish Wood now still going to do this, and Tracy comes all the way from Australia. She could have swung to Germany. That's closer. A little bit closer. But we're here. She says she has family here in the States, especially out west. So she can, maybe have someplace to stay and be comfortable with. And maybe save some expenses there for her. So yeah, that's a good reason to maybe come. Maybe you say a few bucks, but you know what? It takes a lot longer to come from Australia towards the States. Germany's just a little bit closer. I think maybe a few hours less compared to coming to the States. But she's already here. I saw some pictures of her. She's a lovely lady. Also, Minka Volkova, she's from Czech Republic. Jenny Feldman, and that was surprised that they got me. Jenny Feldman usually does Tampa. I'm surprised she did Tampa this year. She did last year, and she's doing this show because the Daytona Pro dropped Women's Physique, so she needed a show she wanted to jump in. And she felt like maybe she wasn't ready enough. I would love to do an interview with Jenny Feldman and get her thoughts. Why are you doing this show? Why didn't you just do Tampa? Well, she probably wanted to do something different. I know a friend of mine. I wish she did another different show because Janine, she should have done this show. She's done this show before. She's been invited. But whatever circumstances, a lot of these ladies are just, it's disappointing as a fan. Now, again, if I'm looking at some of these women now in women's physique, if you remember, we talked about Rachel Daniels could go with women's physique, women's bodybuilding. I've seen pictures of her now. She has put on a lot of size. Her quads, there's a picture of her, and she was at Tampa. I saw her at Tampa while I was there. Her client is Keisha Oliver. Keisha Oliver, who just only did Tampa. Come on, Keisha. This is an opportunity. It may not be the Rising Phoenix it used to be, but it's still a prestigious title. We had Anastasia Ryder. She's on the list for the show in Germany. That's a long way to go. He could have just done a show here in the backyard in the States. I mean, even there's one lady who I follow. She lives in Mexico. She went on to Germany. You could have, even though the Rising Phoenix got enough physique competitors, hey, she has competed in the U.S. She did Chicago Pro this summer. And why not do a show in the U.S. instead of go all the way to Germany? I mean, your opportunity, maybe it could be a chance to get your qualification, but, I think she probably saw the list, or she already knew who was going to be at this show, so she decided, hey, let me just go show out of the way and maybe get my qualification. She's done at least a couple of shows overseas, and, and I think a couple of shows here, other side of the border, north of the border in Toronto. But again, I'm looking at Brigitte. Look at her size. Look at her with her lats, her quads. She is slightly bigger than Martina. And this woman, as long as women in physique, the judges is the fault. The judges are placing these women high. She shouldn't have won this show. Because I think, didn't Paula Ranta? Yeah, Paula Ranta completed this show. Paula should give it to Paula. I think Paula fits the aesthetics more of women's physique than some of these ladies I see now. Women like her, a couple others I think of. You look at Paula, if you look at Zama Benta, she is just crazy. Her shoulders are trapped. And this is one thing, remember, Zama did compete in women's physique. This was back a couple of years ago, right after she made a debut in 2021. 2022, she did the Marine Muscle Fest. She was top 3 at that show. She beat out 2 women who in that show who already were Olympia qualified a month before that. No, actually, I think it was still when they had the Olympia in December. And some ladies were previously Olympia qualified. I mean, who already got the qualification going to Olympia that December. It's just crazy, But they're going to use the excuse because they don't want to get bigger. But some of y'all ladies just sat there. And the judges need to push, saying, you know what? You need to go to women's bodybuilding. And they say, well, there were 3 shows. This year, even though women's physique still have a few more shows in women's bodybuilding, they have lost 3 shows. There is, I talked about how Jack Tatone kicked it out on women's physique from the St. Louis Pro because they only have 5 competitors. That's a women's bodybuilding show right there. He told ladies, hey, if you don't show up for the Omaha Pro, then you're going to drop them from that. And then she'd probably change it and give another division. So the lady stepped up. That's what it is. Somebody has to, maybe a promoter, maybe Jake or somebody has to say, hey, if you don't step up, we're dropping this. But the problem is, I think some of these ladies feel like they are entitled. It's an entitled mindset with, I think, quite a few female bodybuilders. They feel like they're entitled. But you don't deserve that entitlement. If women's physique can come in stacked numbers, and they don't get that opportunity like y'all did. You had the little prize stuff. You had this and that. You had the little incentives, the little per diems. Now you don't have that anymore. Now you feel like you don't have to work for the shows, get a little bit qualification. I'm disappointed by the women's physique division. I truly am. And, I can't put so much on the promoters because they have to make their money. But at the same time, understand it's difficult divisions because it's harder for them to get the opportunities they deserve. But if you're not willing to work for it, you're not willing to fight for it, you're not willing to go and step up and compete as a competitor, then just stay your ass home, straight up. Save the money, put it in something else. Maybe start a gym, maybe invest in something like that. Maybe start the family you want to start or whatever. Just get out bodybuilding in general. Let women's physique take over and become the new dominant force now. And maybe just dissolve women's physique. Maybe dissolve women's physique. Maybe call it women's bodybuilding, or dissolve figure and maybe turn it to women's physique. Whatever you want to do with it. Figure no point to it anymore because now you're going to have a fit model coming in and eventually it's going to evolve. It's going to become bikini. And then, hey, might just make bikini the new figure division. Makes sense. I'm seeing some figure women that should be doing women's physique too. Stop squeezing yourself in the division that you're outgrowing. Realize something. Don't use that bull crap saying, hey, I'll get bigger. No. You're going to get bigger because your body's developing, you're getting older. I remember when I did an interview with Mr. Greg Lawson, whose wife, Keo, just got a pro card in North America. 65 years old. And because he got older, his body metabolism slowed down. It happens to all of us. We're going to put on size, put on muscle. That's why one thing, this is why you see Rachel Daniels get so big, because she's getting her 30s now. She's in her 30s. When she turned pro, I think she was in her early 20s, maybe late 20s. Now when you hit 30, your body metabolism slows down. You can put on more size because that muscle maturity starts kicking in, But like I said, again, I am going to plan on doing a live commentary. It's going to be short for women's physique. It's going to be really busy for women's. It's going to be short for women's bodybuilding, but really busy for women's physique. The other divisions, I don't know. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I just, some of them don't really watch that well. Bikini's too long. I probably won't invest too much time in bikini. Maybe fitness because only 5 women in that division. I know one lady who's competing there, Stephanie Jones. Shout out to Stephanie. She won it last year and got a little bit of qualification. She might win it again. Shout out to her. Her husband Bill's doing pretty well. He's came back. He was in the hospital early this summer. He's doing a lot better from what I'm seeing in the pictures. But I'm just, like I said again, I'm really seeing women who should go up to a division that fits them better. Brigitte is one example of it. I know Alina Oprah did the same thing last year, where she was with physique and made the switch. But now, because she's Olympic qualified, she's going to stay in that division because she feels like, hey, I can get my qualification through this show and, stay in this division. Instead of, hey, should have put her down next to the bottom or maybe 10th or 8th. Politics and BS. Anyway, Anyway, folks, this is man always George Page, aka the Emperor of Female Body Talk. Don't like, subscribe, don't subscribe. I'm out.